Hi and welcome to the Week in Politics. I'm Caroline Fisher. I'm an Assistant Professor in Journalism here at UC. Welcome Michelle, another
Hi, Caroline.
big week in politics and end of a parliamentary sitting.
Yes, that's right.
You must feel relieved. Look, there's been high tensions in the Nationals since Pauline Hansons got a deal with the Agricultural Minister Bridget McKenzie to bring the dairy code forward. My understanding is that the Nationals, they thought it was going to be coming later. They'd pushed it back, and because of this deal with Pauline, it's been brought forward. Do you think that the government's made a miscalculation on that arrangement with Pauline and bringing it forward?
I think the handling of it was certainly very bad. A number of Nationals have been agitating for this code. They were told by Bridget McKenzie that nothing was possible until well into next year. And then suddenly they find there's a deal with Hansons. Hansons out there claiming the credit, and they're left very flat-footed. So even their leader, Michael McCormack, has admitted that it should have been dealt with better, that the Nationals should have had more notice or given their backbench more notice so they could be on the front foot. But more generally, this does reflect a lot of tension and angst within the National Party. This has been going on for a long time. It's been particularly exacerbated, of course, by Barnaby Joyce's fall from the leadership, and
the drought.
And he's on the back bench. And then there's the dimension of the drought, and they feel, or some Nationals feel, that Scott Morrison's not leaving them enough room to have ownership of this issue. You'll remember the very first day that he was elected, the day he was elected leader, he named the drought as a priority. Then he was off to a drought area. When he came back from the United States,
straight off the plane,
jumped off the plane, jumped onto another plane, off to the drought. And the Nationals do feel that they've been somewhat squeezed out.
Okay, so on another story, moving to tensions in the Labor Party. Yes, so the issue of controversial union boss John Setka, that's been bubbling along for a while now, and that seems to have come to a head. He's resigned from the Labor Party. He came down very hard on Anthony Albanese, in his parting shot. How important, though, is it, do you think, for Anthony Albanese for Setka to have left the party?
I think it was very important. Anthony Albanese put himself on the line over this issue. He said some time ago that John Setka had to go, that he didn't share the values of the Labor Party. And then, of course, there was court action, and Setka tried to resist this, but finally he capitulated. And I think that this is a significant win for the Labor leader at a time when actually he's under quite a lot of criticism internally and externally about his performance, that he's being somewhat of a disappointment as leader. Now, I think that's premature myself, because it's only a few months after the election. Labor can't be expected to have a policy framework yet, and it's a very difficult time for anyone leading the opposition. But nevertheless, this was something of a victory this week, and I think that the fact that John Setka attacks Anthony Albanese is actually good for Albanese, not bad.
Well, I did notice it was the first time that there was a positive headline on the front page of the Australian for Labor in relation to Setka this week. So
they've been giving Anthony Albanese quite a lot of curry.
So there was an ANU poll out earlier this week that showed, low trust across institutions, banks, and particularly politicians and the media. But higher trust for the universities. Were you surprised by any of those findings?
I think these findings reflect feelings that have been in the community for a long time now. And when we do see these rankings, the politicians, in this case it was a reference to the federal government, but the politicians don't come out too well, and the media comes out very badly. Now, of course,
that's not new.
That's not new. And of course, at the moment, the media organisations are running this big campaign, advertising campaign, coming off the raids, saying that the government should guarantee media freedom more. So the timing in terms of the media was a bit unfortunate. But the poll was an interesting one from the university's point of view, because it reinforced that people do value universities and academics, and indeed schools and school teachers. And of course the government has been putting a bit of pressure on the universities recently over this question of free speech. So it was a good result for the universities.
Yeah, do you think it's because of they're seen as independent? I mean, and this is also one of the criticisms, of course, in all the research around trust and trust in the media, etc., is that perceptions of bias and that, you know, and agendas. Is it the independent nature of academic research you think that is underpinning that trust?
I think that there's a respect for learning, and I think that they are seen by the public as independent. Now, you mentioned bias. Of course, the government tends to see them as rather biased and thinks that they don't give a broad enough expression to free speech. Sometimes visitors, speakers are rejected because the cost of security is going to be very large, and of course that is put onto the organisation sponsoring those people. But to the extent that the universities have to bear some costs, then they argue, well, sometimes we don't take people. But in general, I think that the universities are centres of free speech. They are, of course, at the moment considering a code of free speech, which the government has been promoting.
So going to that, you know, taking that further, of course, as you mentioned, there is the Right to Know campaign being led by the media organisations with the kind of quite stunning, you know, redacted front pages of newspapers, etc. How do you think that's going to resonate with government and the public, this campaign?
I think that the government won't give more than it feels it has to. I think that really it's not into openness and promoting openness. It might give a bit, but not a lot. And of course, whistleblowers are really the ones at the centre too of this debate, because there's not adequate protection for whistleblowers, and a lot of material gets out via whistleblowers. As for the public, well, the survey suggests that the public won't necessarily be all that sympathetic, given their general level of distrust of the media. So I think that the media can't expect that there'll be some surge of public support behind this campaign.
Okay, thanks very much, Michelle.
Thanks a lot, Caroline.